Hi everybody, this is Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where there was some cable issues, and there was a live mic, and a couple of you heard me curse. That it's what it's like at AV Geeks. Sometimes technology is just, ugh. So I'm like working with this iMac to try to get it to so that I can use that, because that's my traditional streaming computer. But it is, every little aspect of it is a pain in the butt. So now I'm going to have to clip the beginning of this stream so that people won't hear me curse. But it was well deserved. Let me just say, well deserved. Anyways, what do we got today? Behind me I have a film on the scanner, and we're going to use it. And there's still that audio issue that I've been trying to figure out, but you know, I can only do so much, so I apologize for the occasional little light dropout. So anyways, this is, what is this? That is not what it is. It is Basic Needs, our good friend. The alien that asks too many questions. Food. Enjoy.
My trip to Earth was very interesting. I learned about lots of things. I learned about food. I learned about clothing. And I learned about shelter.
Food, clothing, and shelter? We don't need those things.
But people on Earth do. That's why they're called the basic needs.
Well, tell me about your trip to Earth and about that basic need. Food. That's called food, right?
That's right. They eat it so they can stay alive.
They have to eat to stay alive?
Yes, they do. And you'd be surprised at how many different kinds of food there are on Earth.
But how does food help keep Earth people alive?
Well, I investigated that, and I found that all the foods they eat contain things that they call nutrients that their bodies need. People need a variety of nutrients. And since no one food contains all the nutrients each person needs, people have to eat a variety of foods.
That's probably why they have so many different kinds of food in that... What's that?
A refrigerator.
Do the foods grow inside the refrigerator?
Oh no, they don't grow there. Most people have to buy their food. Earth people need stores to get their food.
What's that? Stores.
Those are places where people buy things. There are small stores with just a few kinds of food. And there are restaurants where people can buy food and they can eat it there too. but people get most of their food from places they call grocery stores.
Tell me more. This is getting interesting.
Well, there are all kinds of food in grocery stores. Some of it is in cans. Some of it is in cardboard boxes.
What else?
Well, some of it is in other kinds of packages. It might be frozen, or maybe it just has to be kept cold. But some of it is fresh. And to buy this food in the grocery store, people need other people doing different jobs. Some people put the food out. And then there are people who clean up the messes.
I know what a mess is.
Some people work the cash registers that tell how much the people have to pay to buy the food.
They have to pay for it?
That's right, with money. And then, after people buy the food, some people who work in the store put the food into bags so the people can take it home and put it in their refrigerator or wherever they keep it.
So, do all these canned and boxed and bagged and cooled and frozen and fresh foods grow right in there in the grocery stores?
Oh, no. No, the people who help to sell the food need other people to bring the food to the store.
More people? Wow!
The food comes to the stores in trucks. People have to drive the trucks and unload them. And I even saw some trucks get the food they carry from trains. People have to run the trains, and other people have to unload the food from the trains into the trucks.
Well, I can probably guess that the foods don't grow inside the trucks and trains.
That's right.
But they must come from somewhere.
Right. You're learning. Much of the food that the trucks and trains carry to stores, and restaurants too, comes from places called food processing plants.
What happens there?
All kinds of different things happen to different foods in processing plants. In some of them, foods are made by mixing other foods together and cooking them. That's the way the food called bread gets made. In some places, people change foods into different forms. That's what happens in the food processing plant that chops meat and makes it into a food called hot dogs. Some foods are changed and then frozen by people who work in the processing plants. For instance, the fruits called oranges are squeezed. That's how orange juice is made.
Is that a drink?
Yes, it is. But that's not all that can happen to oranges. In some processing plants, cans of the juice are frozen to make orange juice later.
That's amazing.
But in my favorite food processing plant, people changed a food called milk into something wonderful.
Are you talking about the same kind of milk I saw in the Earth People's refrigerator?
Yes. In a processing plant, people can change milk into many foods, like cheese and butter, and best of all, ice cream.
And I suppose all the different kinds of food all these people process don't grow right here in the processing plant.
That's right.
Well, does it come from where it really grows?
Well, if you mean the milk that's made into ice cream, it doesn't really grow, but it comes from animals that do. The milk comes from cows that live on dairy farms. People work on the dairy farms, take care of the cows, and milk them every day. The milk goes into a big tank, and then someone takes the milk out of the tank and puts it in a truck, and drives the milk truck to the processing plant. And just as they do with milk, trucks and sometimes trains take all kinds of food to the processing plants from where they're really grown. For instance, wheat has to be taken from the farms where it grows so it can be processed and made into bread. People are needed to run the machines that harvest the wheat. Wheat is grain. People are also needed to grow and harvest other kinds of grains that grow on other farms, like corn and rice. Other kinds of foods grow on other kinds of farms. All kinds of vegetables. And all kinds of fruits. And on all these different kinds of farms, people are needed to pick the fruits and vegetables that are raised. People have to raise the animals that meat comes from, too. And then there are people who raise chickens and turkeys. They're used for food, too. And so are chicken eggs. Some food, like fish, comes from lakes and rivers and oceans. People have to catch that kind of food.
It sure seems like a lot of work for people on Earth to get food to eat. They need people to raise the food or catch it, and then harvest it or pick it. And they need people to take the food to processing plants, where people process it. And then they need people to take the food to stores and restaurants. And then they need people in the stores and restaurants to sell the food so people can get it into their refrigerators and other places in their houses.
Yes, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people, but they have to do it on Earth. Food is a basic need. And I've brought you a sample. Ice cream.
Tastes good. I think I could get used to food.
This could be the worst drinking game ever. Anytime the alien asks a question, you have to drink. That would be a bad scene, I think. So, what do we got? There's so many things we can watch. It's been a while since we've shown a Steel film. Maybe a week or two. We used to show them like a couple a week. So here's Steel, a Symphony. Enjoy.
The nation's history is far more a record of industrial victory than a saga of wars waged and battles won. Its greatness lies in glowing furnaces and smoking stacks, in skilled labor, inventive genius, and the spirit of enterprise that is so typical of America. And typical of the steel industry, literally the backbone of 1,000 industries, is the panorama that reveals the magnitude of any one of the major mills where the manufacture of steel involves a tremendous investment. Here, before a worker can be given a job, the company by which he is employed has an average of more than $11,000 for each man employed, and that does not include wages. Incidentally, note one unusual feature of this industrial scene, which would not be found in any other country in the world. The automobiles are at work in the mills, men who are now age rate in the history of the industry. Into such a center of activity, the raw materials are poured from train and ship. Thousands of tons of coal for the blast furnaces, mountains of iron ore, and vast quantities of limestone. They are charging a furnace, ore from which the iron is to be melted, coke to provide an intense heat in the base of the furnace as a superheated air blast passes through it, limestone to flux the impurities from the ore. Up to the top goes the laden Larry to feed one of these giants that may eat up as much as 3,000 tons of solid raw materials a day. Now they are preparing to tap a furnace at the base, where they may draw off as much as 100 tons of molten iron at a time. An oxygen torch burns into a clay-plugged hole, but no chance for injury on this job. That asbestos suit and helmet would protect any stray sparks or spatters. A thin stream of metal begins to flow, glowing liquid iron. The stream swells in volume, a fiery river if you ever saw one. But you, as an uninitiated onlooker, could not be expected to know that these men in charge are very much in command, with modern mechanical devices and highly developed safety measures that enable them to control the flowing metal with less danger to themselves than you face every day in your home or on the street. Today, the American steel mill is as safe a place to work as any industrial establishment. In fact, company after company has prided itself on winning safety trophies, which stand for a prolonged period without a single serious accident. A sample of the metal will be cast into a small block and cooled for a quick analysis by the metallurgical laboratory to check its quality. Meanwhile, the flaming river is directed through channels which lead to the edge of the tapping floor, where it spills into huge ladles resting on flat cars. Ladle after ladle is filled, until finally the laden train is on its way across the yard to its destination, the steel-making departments, where the molten iron in the ladles will be poured into a large container called a mixer, holding many tons, and here kept hot, so that it can be used in its molten state in one of the 3 major processes in making steel. Of these, the Bessemer converter process is the oldest for producing a tonnage product available at low cost for a multitude of uses. Here stand the operators in safety behind shatterproof glass. Number 3 is going to pour. One of the monsters, like a huge egg with the top sliced off, tips over on its trunnions and pours into a ladle its load of steel that glows like the sunset and shoots millions of sparks through the dim traceries of girders and all down the length of the arena. Very different from the spectacular Bessemer is the squat little electric furnace, which makes special steels because of its smaller capacity and the ease with which it can be controlled so accurately. From this process come the high-grade alloy steels, such as stainless and all sorts of special steels with special qualities. And then there are the open hearths. While the roaring flame and fireworks from Bessemer converters still provide a thrilling spectacle, and capacity for producing steel in the electric furnace has been increasing in the last few years, 90% of steel today is produced in open hearth furnaces because of the demand for tailor-made steels in large quantities, which can be produced with this flexible and efficient method. And by the way, there is one interesting factor in the making of steel just as important as the virgin iron, fresh from ore smelted in the blast furnace. It is scrap. Most of the scrap metal will be found en route to the open hearth department. Remelted scrap steel constituting about 50% of the total steel produced today. There's a carload of sheared ends. There's another. And there's a car that may hold all that is left of your 1929 automobile, now on its way to become part of a steel, and a better steel, perhaps for your next car. In this huge structure, the open hearth floor, which is typical of American steel mills, a long line of furnaces holds steel in the making. Steel that will someday enter your life, perhaps carry you safely on some journey, provide you with shelter, create an endless variety of comforts and conveniences. A supply of finely ground dolomite has been piled before the furnace that is to be charged. It will melt like glass and fill any holes that may have been burned through the lining by the previous heat, forming a solid bottom for the fresh charge. Then the charging begins. From the trainload of scrap which has been brought close to the furnace, an electric charging machine lifts box after box and pushes its burden through the door of the furnace. The operator sitting at a safe distance, spinning the ram and dumping its load. There is the rumble of a giant traveling crane overhead, moving in with its burden. A huge ladle of molten iron from the mixer, where it has been awaiting this final step in the process of becoming steel. They are placing the chute into position for pouring the charge. And as the crane draws near, note that the men actually handling the metal are either sheltered high up on the crane in the cab or operate electrical controls across the floor. There goes the charge, 50 tons of white-hot liquid metal heated to approximately 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Hazardous? Frightful danger in this job? Not at all. Millions of dollars have been spent by modern steel mills of America for safety. Devices are employed which not only protect the worker from molten metal, from metallic dust and from flying chips, but also from human carelessness. Of steel production has made work simpler and safer. Men are not doing dangerous jobs that the machine can do more safely, but more men and more competent men are required to control the machine. And the safety achievement of the steel industry is a high tribute to the intelligence of these men who work in the mills. Like good cooks, they must know the temperature of the brew, and they measure it on an optical parameter while it boils in a white-hot pool as big as a fair-sized room. And like good cooks, they even take several samples of the brew, using a long-handled small ladle to pick up enough liquid steel to cast a test ingot. It congeals almost instantly and is soon dumped out and handled quite readily. When it is cooled, it will go to the metallurgical laboratory for a thorough but quick examination before the metal from which it was taken is drawn off to be made into steel. Thousands of different kinds of steels are made like this every day. Each steel, strange as it may seem, a custom-built product. Each different steel, the filling of a prescription, to be of a certain hardness, to be soft, flexible, dull, bright, to be tailor-made for each one of thousands of uses. Now they are ready to tap a big one, and they must reach across to the opposite side of the furnace to break through the clay plug tapping hole from the inside. But the place to see the spectacular part of the operation is on the other side of the open hearth furnaces, where an asbestos-clothed worker burns through the exterior of the clay plug tap hole with an oxygen torch. A few more ramming blows with a long tapping iron, and there she flows. 200 tons of steel produced according to specifications for one of an infinite variety of uses. Just the proper percentages of carbon and other elements are retained in every heat of steel so that it will possess the exact characteristics needed. Men on the platform will shovel in the correct amounts of spiegel, ferromanganese, ferrosilicon, or whatever agent the metallurgical laboratory has prescribed for this particular heat of metal. Higher and higher it mounts in the great ladle, until the slag, the undesirable portion of the charge, rises to the top like froth and overflows to find a future usefulness as a byproduct in other lines of business. The electric crane moves into line to carry the ladle to the pouring platform, where a train of cars bearing the ingot molds is waiting. When this molten metal has been poured into molds, the basic business of making steel is ended. Thereafter, it is only a matter of fashioning from the ingots the form of product desired. The steel man says that this fiery liquid freezes immediately in the mold. He means that it congeals when its temperature goes down 1,000 degrees or so, and within an hour is frozen too hard on the outside for rolling. Thus, it is not of a uniform consistency. So after the molds are stripped from the ingots, weighing from 5 to 15 tons apiece, the huge castings are hauled away to a furnace called a soaking pit, in which they are heated until of the same temperature throughout, and which holds them at exactly the right heat for the anvil of the modern blacksmith, the rolling mill. Now this steel is fairly on its way to you, because in this one chunk of white-hot metal, there may be thousands of cans, kitchen utensils, or perhaps the materials for automobile bodies, refrigerators, and innumerable things in everyday use. And this universal use of steel is possible because its cost is only 2 or 3 cents a pound, the lowest of any important metal. The wide strip continuous mill made it possible to provide sheet steel wide enough for the all-steel automobile body and the one-piece steel top on the models of today. It is one of the many great advances in the art of steel making, which has brought a saving to the consuming public in the form of lower prices for better steel amounting to nearly $300 million a year, compared with costs of 10 years ago. Automobile users alone are saving $75 million a year. But in spite of more men are needed in the mills, and employment is now at the highest level in the industry's history. There goes that ingot you saw, now a hot slab, flattened and elongated on its way to further reduction. Now reduced by further rolling to the size of armor plate. And now becoming a huge strip, several feet wide and less than 1/4 of an inch thick. It moves to the table where it will await its turn in the coiling machine. Coiled hot, it is subsequently cold rolled flat after passing through an acid cleansing bath, 2 processes which vastly improve the smoothness and polish. In general, only the rarer metals such as gold or platinum have ever offered much resistance to corrosive attack until the steel industry developed stainless steels which have made this metal practical for an endless variety of uses wherein it combines beauty with resistance to rust and corrosion. Look at that polish, a permanent mirror-like surface, perhaps destined for some swanky cocktail bar or the kitchen of a modern home. Here is an operation which constitutes in itself a critical test of steel, the piercing of a solid billet to form a seamless tube. And here is another interesting operation, also a critical test of steel, the making of a car wheel. The wheel must retain its specification factors of strength and ability to take it when subsequently it will be pounding over the rails. On another mill, a big ingot begins to take form with a first rough rolling, becoming elongated as it passes through another roll, and then assuming a familiar shape as we see the outline of an H column, destined for some skyscraper or perhaps a great steel bridge. The operators of the mill, up there above it and completely shut off from the heat of that white-hot steel, turn it, spin it around, roll it by pressing buttons or throwing levers, and finally deliver it at the far end of the mill, a completely finished job. Steels pass through various mill processes or combinations of processes in order to make them suited to a wide variety of uses. In any giant ladle of molten metal, there may be steel that is destined to defeat time and distance, to provide the framework of mighty buildings, and to enter into the daily life of every citizen in thousands of things that provide comfort and convenience with economy. The call for steel from every section of America is a demand for a basic material without which life and living standards as we know them today would be impossible. Steel has kept pace with and anticipated the increasing needs of the nation. Men and steel provide a nation with its comforts, its luxuries, and its progress.
Love me a steel film. Although the whole thing about the steel mill is as safe as living at home. Come on. Come on. That's not true. We know that not to be true. Okay, so I have another film set up on the scanner, and we're going to give this a shot. This looks to be a police training film. It's made by MTI, which was Motorola Telecommunications Incorporated, so they made police radios. Motorola did, so they would make training films on how to use the equipment, and then they started just making police training films. And so some of these are, I don't know. We'll see if this is triggering. There's some stuff that's pretty rough. I mean, that's the one thing about police training films is that they are gritty, intentionally gritty. But, yeah, the bad acting is great. All right, here it is. Weapon retention. I don't know. Let's see. Enjoy.
School is now in session across the country. The learning centers are teaching students skills which will help them throughout life. Yes, school is now in session across the country. Learning centers with excellent instructors are teaching students skills.
Now you watch close. Here's how you do it, okay?
They're learning skills which will help them take a life. Your life.
Now when the man searches you, he's gonna come in close. Okay, when he does, you got him. Okay, first he's gonna reach with his left hand and search you. He's gonna come around with his right hand. And when he comes on your waist with his right hand, you trap it with your left hand. Okay, it's the cop's natural instinct to pull away. And when he does, he's gonna straighten you up. And when he straightens you up, you reach back with your right hand and grab his damn gun. Pull his gun, spin around, and knock him to the ground, and you shoot him. Now you know, a lot of cops wear bulletproof vests, but not all of them. So when you shoot him a couple times in his chest, and then you shoot him in his damn head.
Step out of the car, sir. Step back to my car, please. Put your hands on the hood of my car. I'm just going to check you for weapons.
Now you know when a man searches you, he's going to come in close. And when he comes in close, you got him.
For years, we have talked to people on the streets, uniformed officers, on the dangers of using a prop search. I'm going to demonstrate
On almost a daily basis, classes are being conducted within the prison system throughout the United States. The subject matter usually deals with survival. Survival within the prison walls, and survival on the streets to avoid returning within those walls once released. Those classes are effective. The results have been written in blood. The blood of officers murdered in the line of duty. Should we ignore the lessons being taught in those prisons, or should we learn from them?
The alternatives to this, number one, is to keep the weapon snapped until it's time to draw. Stay away from the prop search. Find another alternative, and this is the alternative that we're suggesting right now. Place your hands behind the back of your head and interlock your fingers. And as he does that, come up underneath and grab a couple of fingers and hang on to his hands in this position. You can apply a lot of pressure by doing this. Conduct your pat-down search from this side, checking the area that's immediately available to the suspect, and then switch your hands and come to the other side of the body and complete your pat-down search. If at any time the suspect decides that he wants to break free or pull away, shove him away and get back, take the baton, and do whatever is necessary from that point. There is another alternative. Have the suspect place his hands in the small of his back, interlocking his fingers. Once again, reach up, grab a hold of the two fingers in the center portion of the hand, and you can conduct your pat-down search in this area, around the waist and the pockets, the small of the back. Move your hands so that you're grabbing now with the other hand and conduct your pat-down search with your left hand around the body, checking the pockets and the waistband. If it becomes necessary to handcuff the suspect, you already have him in a handcuffing position. By removing your handcuffs, making sure that you have them facing in the right direction, you can handcuff this man with one hand. Pull the arms away from the body, and you've completed handcuffing the suspect by using the cuffs with one hand and holding the fingers with the other. And then you can step up, secure the handcuffs a little more if you like, double lock them, and then conduct your pat-down search around the boots and the legs and your 10-15, and it's a much, much safer operation. The weapon retention classes that are given here at the LA County Sheriff's Department Academy are as a direct result of the dedicated efforts of many law enforcement officers throughout the United States. These techniques have proven themselves in saving the lives of many law enforcement officers in the past. They're very simple and very direct. We'll show those to you today. Firearms are defensive weapons. Law enforcement officers carry them for that purpose. In the event that you come in contact with a person and you are holding them at gunpoint, don't try to use the firearm in a threatening manner. Don't shove it against that person's chest and prod him and try to push him back. In the event that you choose to do that, the suspect may just reach out and grab that weapon. If that occurs, the suggested course of action is this: reinforce your grip on your own weapon and step towards the suspect. Apply pressure to the suspect's forearm with your upper arm in a turning motion and pull the weapon away from the suspect, and then step back and get away from it. In the event that somebody should reach out and try to take your weapon from behind, the first course is to reach down and pin the weapon in the holster, push down. Turn to your strong side and strike the forearm of the person at the elbow. It only takes about 8 pounds of pressure to snap that bone. In the event that somebody reaches out to take your weapon from behind with their left hand, you once again reach down and grab the weapon and pin it into the holster. Always turn to the strong side. It'll be a face-to-face confrontation with the suspect. The striking area is from the top of the head to the groin. Striking or kicking or using the knee. You can take your fingers and run them into the top of the suspect's eyes, momentarily blinding him. You must remember that this is a violent confrontation. If the suspect gets your weapon, he's going to use it on you. Visualize, if you will, being in a field situation, interviewing a suspect in the field, and he reaches out and grabs the weapon. Once again, reach down and grab the weapon as if you were going to draw it. Place your hand on top of his. Push down on the weapon, lock it into the holster, and step into the suspect. Once again, the striking area, if he comes across from this side of the body, is to the elbow. Strike with enough force to change his mind from taking your weapon. If the suspect reaches with the opposite hand or with his left hand for the weapon, once again reach down and pin the weapon in the holster and push down and step in. As the demonstration before, the striking area from the top of the head to the groin, or to the throat, or to the eyes. Remember, this is a violent confrontation. Imagine, if you will, a set of circumstances that no law enforcement officer wants to face, where suddenly he's confronted in a situation where the suspect has the drop on him. Could be checking out a burglary location. He could walk in on a 211 in progress. Imagine this set of circumstances and realize that you can get the weapon away from the suspect even when he has the drop on you. The suspect with the weapon pointed at you, if he has not fired at this point in time, there's a 99% chance that you can get that weapon back. Raise the hands and plead with the suspect not to shoot you. Promise him anything. A ride out of the area, that he can take you as hostage, whatever. When you feel that the time is right, it's time for you to take the weapon back, ask him a question. Ask him anything. It takes time for his mind to react to the answer, and it gives you that added advantage, the lag time in your favor. When you ask the question, don't look at the weapon, look at the suspect square in the eyes, and when you decide to make the move for the weapon, reach down and grab the weapon at the cylinder. Turn your body to the side so that if it does discharge, in the case of an automatic weapon, that round will not strike you. Once this is achieved, reach in and reinforce your grip, and then drive it into the suspect's sternum, straight into the chest. Continue this movement all the way down, pulling the weapon away from the suspect, then you can strike back. With the revolver cocked, you're facing the same type of situation you would if it were an autoloader. Keep in mind that that first round is going to go. However, with a revolver, with pressure on the round, the weapon is useless in the hands of the suspect. Come across and get the weapon away from you and let the hammer fall. When it falls, reinforce the grip and drive it in. You may choose another course of action, choosing to use your own weapon. If that is your course of action, this is the technique. Reach across to grab the weapon and push it to the side. Grab your own weapon and bring it up to the suspect's head. One of the most hazardous and life-threatening situations that a police officer may find himself in is being taken hostage. Visualize, if you will, in an area, in a store where a robbery is taking place and you're being taken as hostage. The area is being contained by other units rolling in response to the alarm. And you're confronted with a man who wants to escape and use you as his ticket out of the area. You can get out of this situation. You can survive. Talk to the suspect. Get his mind working. And when the time is right, ask him a question. Just before he responds and gives you an answer, it's your time to move. When you move, reach up and grab the weapon at the cylinder. Turn your head in case the weapon does discharge. Come underneath the weapon and reinforce your grip and turn the weapon to the side. Step away from the suspect and pull the weapon out of his hand and step out of the area and let your assisting officers take care of the situation. This situation, although appearing unsurvivable, really gives the officer considerable advantage, especially if he's wearing a vest. If you choose to try to disarm the suspect, the technique that should be implemented goes like this. Hands are elevated, pleading with the suspect, and talking to him. When you feel the time is right, begin to move to your strong side. Remember, to your strong side. As you turn and pivot, drive the right arm, if you're right-handed, down and into the arm of the suspect, pushing that to the side. Continue movement on that hand. Grab the weapon in the hand and drive it back into the chest. This applies pressure to the wrist and the elbow. Continue that movement all the way through and pull the weapon away from the suspect and move away from him. Now, there is another alternative that I might suggest. In that set of circumstances, where the suspect has that weapon in the back and he has not disarmed you, you may choose to use your own weapon to defend yourself. If that is your choice, the same technique in the beginning is applied. The hands are elevated, talk to the suspect, plead with him, get his attention. And as soon as you feel the time is right, drive down with the left hand, moving his weapon away from your back. Take your own weapon out and bring it up to the suspect's head. These techniques do work, regardless of your size and stature. This young lady is 5'3", and the suspect in this scenario is going to be 6'2". She can effectively retain her weapon from somebody else's trying to reach out and take it away from her. In this type of situation, when the suspect reaches forward and grabs the weapon, she must once again reach up and pin the weapon in the holster and push down. She comes across with her left hand and reinforces the grip on the weapon in the holster and then pivots underneath the suspect's arm. You can apply a lot of pressure to his wrist. It's going to cause him to release the weapon. Some of you may be employed by an agency that allows you to carry backup weapons, but have you ever given any consideration as to where you carry that weapon and how accessible it is? In the event that a suspect reaches out and tries to take your weapon, you may choose to use a backup weapon. Once again, you must reinforce that grip, push down on the weapon in the holster, and reach for a backup weapon that is accessible to you. Bring it out, and remember, it's a life-threatening situation you're dealing with if the suspect gets your weapon. The techniques which have just been demonstrated to you are suggested alternatives to that situation you may find yourself in. They have been tested and tried and improved by law enforcement officers throughout the United States. We strongly suggest that if you choose to use these techniques, that you know them very well. You must practice them repeatedly and understand all of the variables to the techniques. Don't merely think that because you have a piece of information that will make you immune from the attack of some assailant in the field that chooses to take your weapon and shoot you with your own weapon. Please practice.
5 of the last 12 officers to die in the county of Los Angeles have been killed with their own weapons. The names of these officers call for us to learn from the past and not make the same mistakes. Don't make the mistake of thinking it can only happen to some other officer. It can happen to you.
Casey Kasem. That's so weird. Like, yeah, I have no idea what was going on there. And I also apologize for the internet glitch. Like, that is, one of the things I'm trying to fix here is make it so that I don't have to do over-the-air internet stuff and so much. But we do it because we love you guys and we love showing you films. So that's why we're still doing this. Even though it is incredibly frustrating to make these little subtle changes and moves. But we do it for you. So thank you so much for watching and commenting and enduring the F-bombs. And enduring all this stuff. Because, we want to show you films. We have so many films to show you. We want to show them all. I want to show you all the films we have. Just like every single one. Except for the boring ones. So thank you for being there for us. And thank you for your support. And one way you can support us is just by hitting the thumbs up or the like button. Another way is to watch one of the hundreds of films that we've been putting online from our collection and from the Prelinger collection. We've been going through and trying to find ones from the Prelinger collection that we've helped with that we haven't put on the YouTube channel. So there's a lot of jam handies that are showing up, which are very exciting. Because I love me a jam handy. I know some of you do too. Also, we're going through our collection of stuff to see stuff that we've digitized, but we just haven't put online yet. So that's happening as well. Another way to support us is with the super thanks button, which is in YouTube or ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. Those are other wonderful ways to support us. So, yes. Thank you again for watching today, and we will see you tomorrow. And so here's the deal. So tomorrow we're doing a show at Alamo Draft House at 6:30, I think. It's the Nightmares of a Clown show, which is great. Then, so I'll do my regular show, lunchtime show, see me live at Alamo. And then Thursday, I'm driving to Seaverville, Tennessee to hang out with some friends of mine who we were on a board together for Center for Home Movies. So I'll be pre-recording Thursday. Friday, I'll probably pre-record as well because I'm going to be at Dollywood. I'm going to ride some roller coasters. So I'll try to come up with something themed appropriately. Maybe I'll record it there at the retreat. I don't know. But it's going to be kind of fun. And then we'll be back Monday. So that's what's happening. Thanks again for watching. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.